Hello dear subscribers, guests of the People's Journalist channel. Today, I promised a very important appeal to the citizens of Europe and the United States of America earlier, and of course to you. First of all, you should know what is happening in our country today, and to whom we are obliged for this. Kindly listen to the end. I will have a few suggestions. My message, if you like, an ultimatum, is addressed to you, citizens of Europe and the United States. Taking into account your typical clip thinking and the same perception of information, without counting on empathy, compassion for those whom you destroy, I will try to state the essence of our requirements without unnecessary emotions. I hope you have no problems with hearing and vision. Everyone has access to the internet, so explaining what is mentioned in all official documents as a state of Russia is not. This is the territory seized by a transcontinental criminal community, firm among the leaders of your states and businesses, where they carry out their criminal activities both directly and through the FS terrorist group, most of whose members, with your consent, also became citizens of one of the EU countries or the United States. For several decades, with your active support, the gang has been engaged in the appropriation and export of resources, the sale of historical cultural values belonging to my people. From permissiveness and impunity, having gone beyond the jurisdiction of the country, criminals sell weapons to terrorists, directly organize and are the perpetrators of terrorist acts both in Russia and abroad. They kill civilians, including your countries, using chemical warfare agents, shoot down civil aviation planes, blow up government delegations, seize territories of independent states, interfere in election campaigns of different countries. The rapid transformation, the growth of your well-being, and especially in recent decades, I will not say that completely. After all, you did not sit idly by when you robbed us, became possible, thanks to the money stolen from us, which you are happy to accept in your banks. Allow bandits and their family members to purchase various assets and real estate on them. You are happy to receive them as payment for services rendered to bandits. Contrary to dozens of laws on countering the legalization of funds obtained by criminal means, receiving this blood money from the hands of these murderers, you think about how much it would be possible to save children in need of expensive treatment, including in your clinics. And even more so, do not think for sure how many journalists, human rights defenders, civil activists, who are trying to stop this robbery, have died and are dying in the dungeons of Putin's camps. To convey to you the essence of the false Eurodemocracy. And its essence is as follows. To those who are trying to find protection and salvation from these murderers in one of your countries, you refuse asylum, and at the same time meet thousands of criminals and their family members with open hands. Create favorable conditions for them to live and use the loot. The fact that all major industrial resource-producing and energy-generating enterprises, directly or through intermediaries, belong to citizens of Europe, or as I call it Evrussia, already testifies in favor of my statement about your involvement in these crimes, because with the completely destroyed electoral system in Russia, it is they who determine policy in the regions and in general, and in particular country. Your leaders and their business partners will never voluntarily take measures to stop this robbery, genocide, just because the Russian slaves serving their enterprises suddenly wanted to eat normally, be treated normally, so that they would not be beaten like cattle during peaceful protests. Finally, they did not blow up their houses, did not kill their children, so that disputes and actions, even criminal ones, would be judged fairly, instead of dealing with the origin of criminal capital within the framework of their own legislation to stop criminal activity. Your authorities imitate the fight against crime of Russian origin, create the appearance of punishments for their allies, accomplices, managers, call it what you want. Occasionally imposing sanctions are directed primarily against citizens of Russia and even Europe. In the end, if the gas delivered through the Nord Stream pipe will be cheaper for the Germans, let it be completed. The suspension of this construction will not affect the Putin shredder wallets in any way. They had already stolen their share of this project, even before the first pipe fell into the water. And what they didn't have time to steal, they are compensated from the budget. As a result, the citizens of Europe and Russia were punished, but not Putin's bandits and their allies. In public discourse, the owners of Russian business, its beneficiaries are outraged, pretend that they do not understand the origin of the fortune of the Luzhkov, Yakunin, Putin, Peskov, Abramovich, Usmanov, Chekhov, Bortnikov, Ivanev, and others, including governors, regional heads of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, prosecutors, courts. They do not understand where the regional prosecutor or the head of the municipal district has more income than any of your presidents. This situation cannot suit sane people in Russia. It should also cause you anxiety and concern. That's why. According to statistics, about 10% of the population flees from any country in the conditions of an increasing crisis. We will make allowances for the pandemic, cowardice, indecision of my compatriots. Let it be 5%. You are ready to accept such a large number of not always tolerant, cultured, and most importantly, not always law-abiding Russians. You are ready to make room on your streets, in houses, apartments. You like robberies, violence, and once quiet provincial towns. After all, for many refugees who will not be able to get a job or will not want to work as in Russia, this will be the only income and entertainment. Moreover, for some, the conditions in your prisons are much better than in the homes they abandoned. Even if you are ready to come to terms with it and be neighbors, not all of them are ready to be neighbors according to your rules. Somehow, you know, we have taken root in Russia. The commandment with its own charter does not go to someone else's monastery. The behavior of some of my compatriots in the resorts of Turkey and Egypt is proof of this. It is not customary for you to relieve yourself in the entrances, but I'm sorry. Having passed again, not without your help, a long breeding path, we can offer you a special breed of people who have no complexes in this regard and from which we ourselves suffer. Having very quickly figured out that your benefits are financed by the money stolen from them, they will exchange statuses with you. You will become guests on your land once, and not they, which in fact you can already observe by the behavior of family members of criminals to whom you have given citizenship. Having very quickly appreciated all the delights of communicating with representatives of the people you robbed, smelly entrances, the reality of vegetation, spontaneous landfills, queues, interruptions in the work of all services has been destroyed, you will stop fooling around, pretending to be fools. What, in fact, are your leaders doing now, and you yourself, pretending that you do not understand anything, and are concerned only with the interests of your state, but not personal in any way? No, oh gentlemen, the masks are off. Now you will not get off with a simple chatter about the rights and freedoms in your pseudo-democratic institutions that serve the Putin regime, your business in Russia, including for our contributions. We are announcing a second front that will run across Europe, where there are leaders who destroy national games, including from among former compatriots, and where there is a center for decision-making on Russia. How will my compatriots get to you, to your clean front doors with flowered curtains, green lawns, and purple cows? Yes, just as on the 26th of March, 1944th year, and further, our people fleeing for their lives, the lives of their children, will cross the border with villages, cities. Thank God, there is no need to cross the sea or the ocean. Will you shoot? Throw tanks at them? Of course not. And here they are, if anything, they can shoot out of desperation, because unlike you, they have nothing to lose but their lives. Your ally Putin will not be able to stop the fugitives either, which today he probably promises and manipulates. But that's not all. Having guaranteed the security and integrity of Ukraine's borders during the signing of the Budapest Memorandum, I note that no one pulled the United States and England by the tongue. In fact, you have thrown another country at the mercy of Putin's gang. For the 6th year, the bloodshed of once two fraternal peoples, whose mothers lose their sons, has not stopped, but you continue to make money on it. No one took a tough stance, and in the event of an attack on Georgia, they turned a blind eye to mass repressions and murders in Belarus. All this has already forced some part of the citizens of the former Soviet Union countries to leave their places of residence. Look at how many Russian speakers there are in Europe, and there will be 10 times more. In their place is an army of migrants from friendly China, who have always had plans to settle not only Siberia. Finally, Turkey, a very obstinate NATO ally, can also occupy some territories that are not so far from you. There are also big space geopolitical plans there. Do you have confidence that 1.5 billion will not go further? After all, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, which is still an outpost of the eastern borders, cease to be such. The citizens of Russia, in Russia, have nothing of their own, and they no longer want to protect yours. This is something you should all think about, as well as the fact that the criminal capital accepted on the territory of the European Union already controls your economies, and will go further. Hacker interference is a choice. This is just the beginning. Criminal capital generates criminal politics, and maybe even before the flow of migrants turns your life into the same hell as you have turned our lives today. Can this be avoided? You can, but only if your authorities stop talking about unnecessary sectoral sanctions. They will slowly begin criminal prosecution of representatives of all branches of the Russian government. Executive, legislative, judicial, oligarchs hanging around them, their family members up to the third level of kinship. Within the framework of your current legislation on laundering funds obtained by criminal means, all their assets will be seized immediately in order to ensure measures. Bank accounts, real estate, the self-proclaimed Russian authorities will declare sponsors of terrorism. They will provide the execution of all private contracts, suspend the execution of all private contracts related to these criminals, arrested together with adult family members who are accomplices, and put on trial. It's just that there are thousands of defendants, not 35, who are being talked about on the sidelines of the State Department. And your task is to convince ordinary citizens of the EU countries to do this in their own interests. Do not convince, wait for the guests. They will come and turn your life into the same nightmare as you have turned our country and our life. The arguments of the EU leaders about the impossibility of arresting criminally acquired funds look ridiculous and naive because there may be a threat of military conflict. In Russia there is such a proverb, do not make my Iskanders laugh. It is difficult for me to translate this expression, like all previously recorded videos dedicated to the combat readiness of the Russian army. But take my word for it, there is no army in Russia that can withstand even 1/10 of your potential. And where will they shoot? For their families living in Europe and America. Rather, their target will be, as another joke says, Voronezh. Mind you, I didn't say a word about mass repressions, torture in Russia, concentration camps of the FSIN, murders of journalists, civil activists. I'm only talking about what concerns you, because I'm not asking for help for us, but I'm offering a way to save you. The destruction of my compatriots. This is not the main goal of the bandits, but just a side effect of their criminal activities. The main goal of destroying Russia and a number of countries of the nearest Union state is an unrestrained manic desire for enrichment, which in turn generates their manic acts, which I mentioned above. If we stop the plundering of Russia, everything else will end. In conclusion, let me remind you, a recent speech by a member of the criminal community, of Minister Lavrov, who shook hands with you. If you want peace, prepare for war. And here he wasn't bluffing. The stick with which you hit Russia has, like any other, two ends, and the second one will hit you harder. My compatriots want to live happily and peacefully, in good neighborly relations with everyone, but you are ruthlessly destroying their world. So be prepared that they or someone else will destroy your world as well. The tears of our dying children will return to your families like a boomerang. Think about it when you get the money stolen from us to pay for the construction of yachts and castles of these bandits. Please, there is an exception in every rule. I am absolutely sure that there are many thoughtful people in Europe, including among my colleagues, who are concerned about the fate of Russia, Ukraine, and their citizens, who will understand the above and support me. With respect to them, human rights journalist Konstantin Berezin. Friends, I wrote a longer appeal, but I repeat again, given the clip thinking quite peculiar, it is inherent in some of our youth. All the emotions that nevertheless remained in this stripped-down version, they will not fall on the heart of our, in quotes, friends in Europe. They do not understand what is happening here today, that their leaders and business elites are robbing, in fact, in complicity with our criminals. And we have to explain it. We have to explain that their minor domestic problems that everyone has, family problems and school problems for children, they are not so terrible. They will be replaced by another, one common problem for all. This problem will come from Russia, and they are creating this problem themselves today. If someone can help with the translation of this text, it will most likely appear tomorrow to the description of this story. Please let us know by email. And each of you will help in distributing the Russian version among our compatriots, and the English version that will later appear in the description of this video, appear on our Facebook pages, Telegrams, and so on.
Английском языке, которые позже появятся в описании к этому ролику, появятся на наших страницах в Фейсбуке, Телеграм, ну и так далее.
Once again, I ask you to subscribe to the Telegram page and our other resources in order not to lose touch. Everything can be. YouTube can stop broadcasting both our channel and broadcasting in general. Therefore, in order to stay in touch, do not be lazy, go and subscribe. Yes, of course, some materials are duplicated, but it doesn't matter. Thank you for your attention. As always, no matter what, I urge you to feed stray animals, call parents, health to relatives, friends. Goodbye, see you again.